I'm Jason UFC, and today we have a story about UFC President Dana White reacts to UFC welterweight champion Leon Edwards publicly declining that Colby Covington should be the number one contender for the next welterweight championship fight. UFC President Dana White doesn't feel Leon Edwards has a say in who should fight him next for the UFC welterweight title. UFC President Dana White is doubling down on his stance to have Colby Covington face Leon Edwards next for the title. Leon Edwards defeated Kamaru Usman in their welterweight title fight at UFC 286 earlier this month. He cemented himself as not only the only welterweight title holder, but one of the best UFC pound for pound. Colby Covington, who actually weighed in as the UFC 286 backup fighter, is expected to get the next title shot against Edwards. UFC President Dana White doesn't usually make fights directly following high-profile events, but he did make this fight after that main event. Since UFC 286, Edwards has been less than enthused with the idea of Covington being awarded a title shot. Edwards feels there's other top contenders that have shown more activity recently, such as Bilal Muhammad, should be in consideration. But Dana White isn't budging with his and the UFC plans for the next welterweight title fight. Dana White to Leon Edwards, who gets a next title shot isn't your choice. Wow. A UFC San Antonio post-fight press conference, UFC President Dana White responded to Edwards' reluctance to have Colby Covington be his next title challenger. Listen, it's not like I'm a big old Colby Covington deserves this shot at the title. Dana White says, I don't blame Leon. Leon just got through Usman twice, and now he's looking at another wrestler with a funky style that's tough to deal with. When you become the champ, everybody's coming after you. All the straight killers are coming after you for the next 3 times a year. You are faced with nothing but the baddest dudes in the world in your division. If you look at Usman and what he did, Usman ran through that division twice. Usman's one of the greatest of all time. Leon Edwards just beat him twice. Leon, you are the man, you are the guy, and everyone's coming after you. And it's going to be Colby Covington next. Okay, Colby Covington hasn't fought since last year with a win over Jorge Masvidal, very important name, at UFC 272. It's been posited by some that Masvidal could potentially change the UFC's mind and earn himself a title shot with an impressive performance at UFC 287 when he fights Gilbert Burns. Let me see if, regardless of how Masvidal versus Gilbert Burns plays out, Dana White and the UFC seems adamant in their stance to award Colby Covington another shot at UFC Gold. A major talking point behind Edwards' reluctance is the fact that he had to undergo a long, frustrating journey to the title shot. Fight cancellations and other circumstances resulted in a low activity level for Edwards from 2020 to the present. The UFC title picture continues to fascinate, and appears the UFC is ready to force Edwards' hands when it comes to future showdowns with Colby Covington. Yeah, I mean, this, I don't know if this is being blown out of proportion. I know everybody's covering it. I don't know how big of a deal is Edwards. It seems like it kind of blew up the internet, where everybody's like, oh my goodness, we're gonna have a big deal with Edwards saying he doesn't want to fight Colby Covington next or something like that, or Colby Covington doesn't deserve it. My problem with that argument is that when Leon Edwards and his team said that Colby Covington didn't deserve the next title shot, they gave an opponent that they thought deserved a next title shot was Jorge Masvidal. And I didn't understand, and I still don't understand. And they make it, well, we have history, and the 3-piece in the soda that happened like 5 years ago. So there's a history there. There's a selling piece. We want to get that back. But Colby Covington literally defeated Jorge Masvidal last year. That was their last fight. So the whole inactivity argument just doesn't make sense, right? Like Jorge Masvidal, I believe, is on a 2-3 fight losing streak, 4-fight losing streak, maybe even like a 3-fight losing streak, right? Like he lost to Usman twice in a row, I believe, and he lost to Covington last year. I think before that, I guess he probably got a win over Nate Diaz, right? And, I think that was his last win. I don't know for sure. I'm an MMA casual, but I think Jorge Masvidal, from what I can remember, his last victory may have been over Nate Diaz. And, that was like a very, very long time ago. So I can't understand why Leon Edwards would say Colby Covington doesn't deserve the number one contendership, and that Jorge Masvidal deserves it more than Colby Covington. And so that's my biggest argument. If Leon Edwards is saying, hey, it should be Bilal Muhammad, I know they credited that in this article, but I haven't really heard that argument that from their team. If they would have been saying someone like Hamzat Chimaev, if they would have been saying like Shakov Rachmanov, if they would have been throwing out those names, I would have been like, okay, cool. But the first name, and literally the first name they threw out there was Jorge Masvidal, and everybody's holding their breath to see what happens between Jorge Masvidal and Gilbert Burns. But, Gilbert Burns last year lost to Chimaev. Masvidal last year lost to Covington, right? So it's just like, what are we talking about here? A lot of people, they get a title shot, they lose one fight, and, they lose the title shot, and then they win one fight, and they're like, hey, I deserve another title shot. And it's like, that's not really how it should work, right? There's other people in the division who deserves the title fights. Colby Covington, lost to Usman. He came back. He defeated Masvidal. Maybe he should have another fight before that, but he's the number one contender, and if that's what the UFC wants, right? It's not like Colby Covington lost his last few fights and they're just giving him another title shot. He did win his last fight over a really high-ranked welterweight. I don't know why Colby Covington hasn't fought since then, or why Colby Covington hasn't fought someone like Chimaev or Bilal Muhammad. In the last 2 years, that probably would have silenced a lot of the doubters, but we don't really know what's going on with Chimaev. Is he a welterweight? He may be in a middleweight division. And then there's Bilal Muhammad. So to me, at the end of the day, it's basically between Colby Covington and Bilal Muhammad, right? So whoever the UFC wants to pick, whoever accepts the fight, that's who it comes down to. I don't think, either way, I don't think it's a robbery for Colby Covington to get the title shot. From what I understand, and listen, I'm an MMA casual, but I can't remember everything. But I believe Leon Edwards defeated Bilal Muhammad. Wasn't that last year? Didn't it not fight? Did Leon Edwards defeat Bilal Muhammad last year or 2 years ago by like an eye poke or something like that? I thought that happened. I thought that fight happened recently. Maybe I'm wrong. But if Bilal Muhammad did fight Leon Edwards last year or 2 years ago, and Leon Edwards defeated him, yada, 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 it seems like the most sense by process of elimination would be like, well, then Colby Covington does deserve the number one contendership. Colby Covington does deserve to get the fight versus Leon Edwards, because Leon Edwards already fought Bilal Muhammad. So from that, that's my reason as to why I think Colby Covington deserves a title fight. But let me know your opinion of this story. Who do you think deserves the title? This is just such a mess in the welterweight division. All of it's like, we thought we were going to get a lot of clarity, right? We had Usman. We were worried that when Usman was champion, he defeated everybody in the division like twice. So it's just like, okay, what are we going to do here, right? We finally get a new champion, and now the first time we get an opportunity to make a fight, it's like, it's almost impossible, right? Like, it's just like, why is it so hard for a new champion to fight new contenders like, Covington, Rachmanov, Chimaev, who else? Who else? Rakhmonov, Chimaev, Bilal Muhammad. There's a lot of contenders in the welterweight division where it shouldn't be this difficult to make these fights happen. But let me know your opinion. Who do you think should get the title fight versus Leon Edwards next? I personally say, I normally don't give my personal opinion, my editorial opinion in these stories, but I personally think it does make sense that Colby Covington will get the first fight versus Leon Edwards next. But let me know, who do you think it should be? Do you think it should be Colby Covington? Do you think it should be Bilal Muhammad? Do you think it should be Shakov Rakhmonov? Do you think it should be Hamza Chimaev? Or is there like someone else completely out there that you think it should be? Do you think it should be Islam Makhachev, right? Islam Makhachev offered to fight Leon Edwards. So there's a lot of contenders that it really shouldn't be that difficult. Do you think it should be Jorge Masvidal? Do you think it should be Gilbert Burns with a win, right? Like there's like 7 names, and I'm an MMA casual. If I can name 7 names that, that could justifiably be made for this fight, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But I'm Jason, UFC. Today we had a story about UFC President Dana White reacts to UFC undisputed welterweight champion Leon Edwards publicly declining Colby Covington being the #1 contender for the welterweight championship. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.